Oh, that was that was frantic, wasn't it? Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Deepdale. Welcome to Preston. Long trip up here for those 670 Norwich fans. Took us a good 5 hours to get up here tonight. So fantastic effort from those guys. And I'm sure after 12 minutes they were probably scratching their heads, wondering what on earth they'd let themselves in for, because this was a night where Norwich City probably self-inflicted a lot of their own harm, particularly in that first half. But it was, as the title of this verdict is, spirited comeback from there on in. And I have to say, probably on balance, as I'm stood here tonight, and I've spoken to people, both Norwich End and Kenny McLean and other people behind the scenes, and the same with Preston. And I think the general consensus is that a point is fair enough on both sides. And I think I'd probably concur with that. It's finished here 2-2. But that doesn't half tell the full story. So let's run through the game and how it unfolded. Norwich City, perhaps surprisingly, certainly from my perspective, only made one change this evening. And that was a start for Emi Marcondes, who, having had, I think, 10 minutes against Hull, 26 against Stoke on Saturday, was then given his first Norwich City start here today. And if I'm honest, probably now, there were some good bits. There was some energy that he showed, and some nice passes, but probably felt like a bit of a big step too soon for him, really, in terms of where he's at from a Norwich City perspective. So that was the only change, which I found a little bit surprising, given we're in a 3-game week and Norwich need to probably make use of their squad, which they did, to be fair, in the second half with some of the substitutes. But yeah, whether that freshness maybe paid in or didn't pay dividends in the first 12 minutes or not, you be the judge. But Norwich came out of the blocks really, really slowly. It was a lacklustre start, lacking composure. There were cheap concessions. There were poor turnovers. They lacked all sort of structure and rhythm and shape. It was probably as bad a spell of football as we've seen Norwich produce under Johannes Torp, really, since probably that Oxford game, which obviously is now going to be probably the low bar for everything to come up against. And it took just 6 minutes for Preston to take the lead. Ball in behind Norwich City's defence. George Long comes way off his line, and as soon as he commits, he has to follow through, really, and he has to either get the ball or take the man down. And he was way second to the ball and had to bring Emil Reese to the floor. Sam Greenwood steps up, confident penalty straight down the middle, and George Long left diving to his right. And then 12 minutes is the one that I think is the goal that Norwich will kick themselves at, because to make one error so early on after 6 minutes is one thing, but Callum Fisher with a cheap concession inside. I think Norwich weren't quite set and didn't quite have the options maybe they thought they would. And then there's a turnover, and because they were transitioning from that sort of off-ball shape where Doyle tucks in as a left-back, he was already advanced. That left lots of space, and Preston turned it over. Dwayne Holmes is sent through. For me, George Long could come off his line quicker. He can narrow that angle a lot better than what he does, and then the shot does seem to go through him. But, and I've seen a lot of vitriol aimed at him and criticism aimed at him. Fine, understood, he should have saved it. I'm sure if he was stood here in front of you all, he would admit that he should have saved it, and he probably should have come out of his goal quicker. But equally, we should talk about the mistake that led to that in equal measure. The fact that Norwich got caught so poorly in their own half, so uncharacteristically, really, given what this Norwich team has produced in recent weeks. But yes, error in terms of the goalkeeper, error in terms of Callum Fisher initially, error probably in terms of Den Cordoba getting caught in two minds about whether to commit or whether to go. And in reality, that's really, really difficult to do, because you go with a man and one then has a clean run on goal. And if you go with a man, then he can just play it off. So when you're in an overload like that, there's no real situation to get yourselves out of it. And it was a goal that I think people will reflect on probably as a negative for George Long. But I think it's worth bearing in mind the timeline of the goal, which of course there were other areas that led up to that. And to have a man through on goal like that is one thing. But if Angus Gunn is in goal, does he save that potentially? But that's maybe a different debate. I did think there was one moment in the second half where Reese got in behind Norwich. There was a clip just behind Duffy. He was beaten for pace by Reese. I thought Long was a lot better then at coming out and making that angle a lot narrower, albeit from a tighter angle, so maybe slightly easier to do. But yeah, I think when he probably reflects and does the final analysis on the goal that he conceded the second time around, I think he'll probably feel he should have saved it, and he should have. It's gone probably straight through his body, but equally that he could have narrowed the angle a lot more. But there was a lot of other errors in the lead up to that goal as well. And from there, really, from that point, from the second goal, Norwich settled down and started playing some really nice stuff and controlled the game. And this helped, I think, because of the way that Preston contained and were quite happy in a low block to sit and to try and hit on transition. But Norwich had a lot of the territory, had a lot of the ball. I think as it was going into half time, they had 72% possession or something, and one shot on target prior to Borja Sainz raking in. So it's just about converting that possession into something meaningful. And you could see, probably similarly to Stoke, really, that Preston's game plan was to put a lot of bodies in the middle. We know Norwich like to have control in the centre of the pitch. They like to play quickly and spring through that centre of the pitch. And teams, I think, are becoming aware that that's what they want to do. So there's maybe less of a willingness to go and press Norwich's first line in terms of the line that they use to build up the play, knowing that if that first line gets broken, Norwich is so good in terms of then converting that into really real tangible opportunities. So teams, we are seeing a change from teams, and I expected that we would. But equally, I think Norwich didn't find themselves 2-0 down because of anything that Preston did that was spectacular or that really outfought them. It was two errors, really, and that is probably the frustrating bit from everyone. And again, it's probably a point where I think initially their line was too high, and probably the second time their line was too low. So it's subtle areas and it's small nuances. And let's be honest, we're 11 games into this Norwich City project. There was always going to be areas that weren't refined, and little bits that did pop up that maybe, okay, I didn't foresee that coming. And I think maybe it was 12 minutes that hopefully show people that this is still a team that is transitioning to something else, is building for something else, and is going to concede goals like that. Unfortunately, it's the way that it's going to be. But in the same token, the way that they responded to the first goal and afterwards was messy. How they responded to the second goal was excellent in terms of restoring control. There was a calmness. There was no panic. There was no gun-ho approach in terms of throwing men forward, desperately trying to get that next goal. But there was a belief that they could get it and they would get it. And if they did, then suddenly the game shifts again and the game state shifts again. And Preston, from a 2-goal lead, were less comfortable with a 1-goal lead. But that pressure and that momentum was built through that possession that they had and moving Preston from side to side. But because of all the bodies and the space that they were condensing in that middle of the pitch, the space was in wide areas. And Norwich, they want to play central. They want to play vertically in those areas. They don't really want to move the ball, horizontally and be forced into wide areas to change the pitch. So Preston did that very well, and that is what I think prompted the change in the second half to go to the three at the back and to have wing backs and really try and stretch that shape. And it had joy because they had much more probably central control in that second half in the build up to the second goal. And ultimately, it's that sort of dragged shape that allowed Shane Duffy the space to go and combine with Josh Sargent and step in the way that he did. So it was a logical change in terms of going with wing backs, going with probably progressors in those areas. Kate Gordon came on and didn't do anything that was majorly impactful in terms of in that role, but just offered Norwich a threat and an outlet and somebody who could hold a high position, and probably just gave their wing back something to think about a little bit as well, because when they were transitioning and hitting Norwich on the counter, it was those guys that were really providing the width and stretching Norwich's shape. So the tactical change made a difference, but that goal before half time was a big one because it came after a real sustained period of pressure. Borja Sainz hit a shot over the bar. There was a couple of nearly moments where Norwich worked themselves into pretty good opportunities, but just didn't quite have a shot. And the goal is brilliantly worked. It comes from recycling, ball out to Fisher, lovely whipped cross into a really dangerous area. And who else is there but Borja Sainz to hook the ball into the back of the net? His 8th goal of the season. Loves scoring away from home, it seems. Only Antti Sienats before that goal had scored other than him on the road this year, but such an important player and more involved tonight as well, Borja Sainz, which is good. Not all of it was perfect, but it's about getting him and Sargent, as the second goal probably documents, balls in high areas, because when you do that, their quality means that Norwich create opportunities, and they create opportunities that are of good value, of high value, that allow them to get themselves back into the game. And really the second half started where the first half ended, which was Norwich in control. And probably if Norwich would have had 10 extra minutes in that first half, I think they probably would have scored again. That was the way the game was going. They really had Preston hemmed in. They silenced the crowd, which is a big factor. And they really got on top of the game, and there was a lot of pushing but it was the control, I think, that will have pleased Johannes Hoftorp, particularly given how fraught and frantic that opening 12 minutes was. And then the second half, they had to be patient. And again, it was building, and it was a similar kind of game state. Preston with men behind the ball, hoping to defend well as they have done. I don't think they've conceded a goal in their last 3 games. I don't think they've conceded a goal here since the opening day of the season, which goes to show just how good defensively that team is, and what it can do defensively under Paul Heckingbottom. And he always is able to get his teams organised and super fit and super aggressive off the ball. But Norwich, as I said, they dragged the shape wide, they opened up space in the middle, and that's where the goal comes from. It comes from a switch of play, Kenny McLean into Shane Duffy, who I think all of us were wondering what on earth he was doing, but picked out a brilliant ball to Josh Sargent. And Sargent's role in this goal shouldn't be underestimated, because it was a quiet night for him. It was a difficult night for him because you play teams in low blocks. It's hard then to get yourself involved in the game because you don't want to drop too deep, and basically attract defenders and condense what is a condensed block of space even more. So you have to stay high, you have to stay on the periphery, and you have to hope that eventually opportunities come your way. And this was a really good example of that. Gets on the shoulder, creates the space with his run for Duffy to glide into, but then Duffy picks him out. There's a brilliant bit of footwork, and his first touch wasn't always brilliant tonight, but managed to engineer it and pull the ball back to Shane Duffy, and then it's a cultured finish into the back of the net from the experienced Irish defender, who, let's be honest, has had critics this season and last season, and there were real question marks, probably internally as much as externally, about whether he could handle what Johannes Torup was trying to do. He had difficult pre-season. He didn't play. I know there was real frustration in Austria when he wasn't picked to play in a game when Norwich had Jose Cordoba, I think it was, out with a thigh injury. So for him to come back and be producing what he is, which is really consistent, solid performances, and I know from speaking to people that he's really invested in this, and his professionalism has gone up, and there's been a real change in terms of his sports science approach and his conditioning approach, and I think you can see that on the pitch. Norwich are reaping the rewards of it. He's experienced, but he's really leading this team, and it's not just moments like that. It's getting through games, and the irony is after that there were a couple of cheap concessions. So whether he got carried away with himself, I'm not sure. But I thought Jose Cordoba again was excellent tonight, and the partnership that those two are forming is really good. There's a real understanding blossoming there, I think, now in terms of what Cordoba offers Norwich with his athleticism to sweep up behind, to defend in big spaces, and what Duffy offers with almost that old school, conventional sort of defensive style. But don't underestimate his ability on the ball, which has, I think, really improved under Johannes Torup, maybe barring that last 10 minutes or so. But again, after the goal, I felt the game became quite open. Preston came out of that deep block. There was suddenly more of a willingness to go and attack. They had a few corners. Norwich had a few corners. Neither team really had a clear-cut opportunity, I would say. There was one where again Duffy got caught high up the pitch, and Emil Rees was sent through, and Cordoba just managed to get something on the shot to poke it wide. But there wasn't anything that, George Long wasn't forced into any major saves beyond obviously that Rees opportunity, which was at 2-1, I think. So both teams probably could have won it. Neither team did. I think in the end we're probably stood here talking about a fair result overall, because when you go away from home, I think it's the first time. In fact, I'm going to get that up now. But when you come away from home and basically give your opposition a 2-goal head start inside 12 minutes, that's really difficult to come back from. And historically, we've seen that as well. It takes real character, and I think it's a good sign with Norwich as well, who brought on. You have to think Gabe Forsyth came on, Ben Krezene came on. It was I think it was 2020. Obviously, Kate Gordon as well. So 2020 in Ben Krezene and 18 in Gabe Forsyth. That was Norwich City's first 3 subs tonight. And this is the statistic from NCFC numbers. So I'll flash it up there. It's a very good Norwich City account to go and follow. Tonight is the earliest Norwich City have been 2 goals down, 12 minutes, and avoided defeat for 19 years, since being 2 behind after 10 minutes in a 2-2 draw at Coventry in November 2005. The scorers that day, 2 defenders, Callum Davenport and Craig Fleming, and another one from him, Shane Duffy, the first Norwich City centre-back to score from open play since that Ben Godfrey goal against Reading in 2019. So it's difficult to do. It's never easy to come from behind, particularly away from home, and Norwich haven't been as great away from home, I don't think, probably for the last year now. And it's going to be interesting to see how these 2 games, I think, are analysed. I asked Kenny McLean that, and I think there's probably at the moment a feeling of real frustration, and probably actually a lot of how it will get reflected on hinges on Sunday, because if Norwich can win that game, suddenly 5 points from 9 doesn't look too bad. Whereas, if it's another draw and we're talking about 3 points from 9, or even a defeat and 2 points from 9, suddenly that looks like a week where Norwich have regressed slightly. So you can spin it however you want. It's one defeat in 8, but equally I think it's obviously 2 points from a possible 6. So I know Johannes Torup will feel frustrated by that, but it just keeps the momentum going. And you know what they say, if you can be really good at home and win your home games, enjoy your away games, you're going to be all right as a championship team. And this is a difficult place to come. There are some good teams who have come here and struggled. Watford, I think, lost here pretty dramatically. Coventry have lost here. Paul Heckingbottom has really stabilised this club and this team, particularly here tonight and at this place. So to come here to score 2 goals, albeit after being 2-0 down, hopefully it gives some real character. And it's the type of result, I think, that just builds a little bit of togetherness within the group, that just binds them that little bit closer, that just adds a little layer of an extra bit of resolve that maybe can be useful across a championship campaign. So, look, in hindsight, I think it may be a result that actually we look back on with a little bit more fondness than what we're doing at the moment. But yeah, probably definitely frustration, because this is a game that Norwich City could have won, and had they not have given Preston a 2-goal head start, maybe we would have won as well. So, and particularly when you add that to the Stoke game, and obviously maybe that second half performance where they ran out of steam a little bit as well, this week could have panned out a lot differently. We could easily be stood here tonight speaking about 6 points from a possible 6 from these 2 away games, but as the old adage goes, if you can't win them, don't lose them, and Norwich haven't done that. So there we go. Middlesbrough on Sunday. That's going to be a very tough game. Again, they are obviously a team who, certainly from underlying numbers, are amongst the best in the Championship, but in terms of performances and results, certainly haven't been as of yet. So it's going to be another difficult game. Norwich obviously can go a year unbeaten at home if they avoid defeat against Middlesbrough on Sunday. We will be there, and long trip home in the morning back to Norfolk. Thank you very much for watching. Pinker.com is it is the best place to go, but it is also the place to go for all the analysis and reaction to this game. We'll have some Kenny McLean stuff. I'll bring you all the news tomorrow as well. Expecting quite a busy, big day tomorrow. EGM, of course, Norwich City Fan Social Club. If you're in and around Norfolk and get to Carrow Road, go and see Johannes Hoftorp and Glenn Riddle's home. Take questions from fans. I'll be there. It's going to be a really exciting night, and well done to those guys for putting that on. They're always brilliant events, so make sure you go and get that. But it's the EGM as well, obviously, that vote, which will basically enable that transfer of power in March from Delia Smith and Michael Wynne-Jones to Mark Attanasio, plus maybe a coaching appointment in there as well. We shall see. Thank you very much for watching from a cold, chilly, and now empty Deepdale. I'm hoping I don't get locked in, because that has been known in years gone by. Good night, and we'll see you again at Carrow Road on Sunday, where hopefully it's sunnier, warmer, and we get to speak about a Norwich City win. See you soon.